Hey, you guys, welcome back. I am Carolina. I got my cup of tea and I am ready to talk to another mama today. I'm super pumped about today's mama because, yeah, I think she has a pretty interesting story. First of all, she lives in Japan, so that's interesting. And she's got three kiddos, and the youngest one has, I think, a pretty cool and exciting birth story. But also, I want to give you space to talk about the other two. Um, Her name is Kayla Murray. And Kayla, I'm so glad that you decided to do this with me. I feel like you said before we got started, we're friends, but like we don't know each other. And
Right.
it's so nice to finally meet you. And I just am
Same,
excited to like
same.
chat a little bit. Okay, so tell me a little bit about yourself, what you're doing in Japan,
Okay.
and yeah, who
Oh,
your
the
babies are.
pressure. The pressure. So we live in Japan. We've been here since 2017. My husband is active duty Air Force. I'm Reserve Air Force. Before Japan, we were in England starting 2013. We did 4 years there, and then we were finishing up 3 years in Japan. So it's been crazy. I had my first baby in England in 2015. I had my son right after we got in Japan in 2017. And
Wow.
then I had my last baby, my surprise baby, my final baby, just 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Um,
Where are you
it's
from originally?
We are both from Texas.
Oh, okay.
I'm from a
Cool.
small town called Nacogdoches. It's about an hour and a half north of Houston. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Wow. All right. Cool.
and now we're moving back to Texas, and it's weird to me because when I left Texas, I was like, I lived here my whole life. I never want to go back. It's fine. And now we have to move back to Texas, so it's weird. I'm not super excited, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But babies, let's talk babies.
Yeah. Well, okay. This is just like total side note and kind of random, but I love your baby's name.
Yeah.
And you do something where
Yeah.
you call them by their middle name.
Yep, they all three go by their middle names, and that's a kind of family tradition on my husband's side. He goes by his middle name. He goes by Ethan. His first name's John. And that's just kind of been a family tradition with their family. So we just carried it on over. The only thing I didn't do is they use family names. And I was really particular on, I wanted my kids to be 100% themselves independently. So I gave them non-traditional, no family names. And Koa's name, my most recent baby, the story behind his name is Koa's Hawaiian for brave. And Ko was a surprise baby, and he all came to light in our trip to Japan last year. I mean, in our trip to Hawaii last year.
Oh,
So it just kind
cool.
of, yeah, because we went for, I don't know, almost 7, 8 months not knowing what to name him.
Yeah.
And I just, one day I was like, I know what it is. It's
Yeah.
Koa.
I love
So,
that. It's Malcolm Koa.
hmm.
That's cool. And how old are your other ones?
Nadine is 4. She'll be 5 February 4th. And then Kai is 2, almost 2.5. He's a July baby. So
Cool.
4,
Kai
2,
has
and new
like
is what I say.
Kai has like the coolest hair ever.
I know, it's why I won't cut it. And some people give me a hard time. I think everyone's kind of gotten used to it and I don't get a hard time anymore. But especially people back home, they're like, cut his hair. I'm like, never. I'm sure I will
No,
eventually, but it's beautiful.
it's
And no one
so
knows, like,
beautiful.
so my husband, he's part Korean. His dad is Korean. He was a dark-haired baby. I was blonde, but I wasn't that blonde. So when he was born and he had like a white head, we were like, "What is this?" So
Yeah. Yeah, he's got like the coolest hair. He looks like a super fun little dude. He's always running around totally naked.
naked. So everyone says that, and that's how we started out potty training him, which finally has been successful. But now that we're kind of past potty training, if he's at home, he is not a fan of clothes. So I just, I let him do his thing.
Okay, cool. Um, okay, and then tell me you're also in school.
I am. I'm in my final class for my bachelor's in sports and health science. I have worked so hard at that. I toyed around with, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I really do and still do want to do nursing. But we got orders to England when I was applying for nursing school. And of course, I jumped on, all right, I'm going to England. I'm not staying behind. So I put
Mhm.
that on hold. But in order to kind of keep my brain alive, and thriving, I chose something I could do online, and that was sports and health science. And I started that 2 months after my first daughter was born in April, and I will be done December 30th. I'm so excited.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, that's so close.
I know. I just have like one more assignment. So,
Oh man, I'm pumped for you.
yeah.
I know you've been working really
It's
hard.
weird because like I've been working hard. I'm about to be done, but I still feel like, okay, now what? I don't feel
Mhm.
done? So,
Well, yeah, I mean, really, it's kind of like just the beginning, I guess.
yeah. Yeah. And now that we're going back to the
Any,
States,
yeah,
um,
any thoughts on what you
so I
want to
think in
do
an
next?
ideal world, as to like what I want to do, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
In an ideal world, I would like to go back to Texas, and I would like to look more into the birth fit because I know we had talked about it previously. I would like to do doula work and do some birth fit work until my kids are older and all in school, just part
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And then from there, I do still want to do nursing. And then I have big goals, big long term goals that I realize will probably not be complete until my kids are almost out of high school, likely. But I don't want to quit.
Yeah.
So, but my plan is to hopefully do some doula work, get my kids all in school and situated, do nursing school, and then there's a midwifery program 2 hours away in Lubbock, and
God.
that's what I want to do. I told my husband I
Yeah.
don't care how long it takes me to get to that. That's what I want to do.
Oh
Um,
man, I love that so much. I
you do-
also want to be a doula, and
yeah,
I'm thinking this year is the year that I get certified, that I go train.
yeah,
Maybe, I don't know, we can find like a doula thing somewhere and meet in the middle.
I would love that. That would be awesome. I don't know where. I feel like I do know where to start, but I'm like hesitant. So I'm like, But I
Yeah.
really need to get to that ledge and just jump off in it because I think I would excel in it. I just have to get a little outside my comfort zone and go for it.
Yeah,
Um,
that I've been putting it off for a while, and my thought is
mhm,
like, I'll wait until I'm a little bit more settled and
mhm.
grounded with Callie, and because I feel like I when I do take it on, I want to be able to, fully
Really put
dive
yourself
in.
into it. Yeah,
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's something I think that's one of my goals for 2019 or oh shoot,
same,
2020.
same.
Yikes.
2020. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, so birth story.
Birth stories.
Tell me where you want to start. Do you want to start with Nadine, or go
I
right to
will give a
Koa?
Oh gosh, I'll start with Nadine. I'll probably be pretty brief with Nadine and Kai. I have too many
Okay.
kids. I get their names mixed up. Nadine and Kai. I think I want to start off by saying I'm always hesitant to share my birth stories because they were they were picture perfect, kind of almost out of a book, like
Okay.
stuff you read in like Ina May's book or something. And I
Okay.
almost feel like when I share it, people are like, oh, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they jump right off into their kind of stories. And so I feel like I don't know, I feel nervous, I guess, to talk
Yeah.
about it.
Well,
Does that make any
thank you.
sense?
It really does. And thank you for saying that, because with this podcast, I've been worried that, you know, I don't want it to come across that I'm trying to, like, I, sensationalize isn't the right word, but that I'm trying to share all these stories that are really dramatic or
Yeah,
traumatic or
yeah.
challenging, or they don't go the way that they're planned. Yes, that is the case for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Um, and also, it's not always that way. It might go
Right.
exactly the way that you thought it
you want.
would, or
And I will
yeah,
say
or
that there were certain points where things didn't go as planned, but I think the big thing. So for Nadine, I had it was a hospital birth. I didn't know anything about when I found out I was pregnant. We were excited, loved this baby already. But someone asked me if I was going to breastfeed, and I was like, I've not even thought about it. Like, I guess I should read up on that. And then someone ran into me and was like, you should meet my friend Katie. She's a former doula of mine. She's great, yada, yada. So I met her, and she just like dropped so many knowledge bombs on me and suggested these books to read and just to kind of give myself more things to know and give myself options and know that there's more than just your typical way of birthing that you typically hear, you see in the shows, you see in Friends and whatever. So that was cool. For Nadine's birth, she came 41 weeks exactly. It was 7 or 8 hours long in labor. I called my doula around 9 a.m. No, 7 a.m. And I was like, I've been cramping a couple hours, nothing crazy. She was like, okay, well, lay low. It may be a while, not a big deal. So I was like, okay. And I sent my husband to work. I was like, oh, I'm going to be here all day. This is terrible. Just go to work and I'll call you when things start to get intense. And he left, and literally like 20 minutes later, my mucus plug came out, and I was like, what in the hell? So I called my doula back, and I was like, so my mucus plug came out. And then on the phone with her, I had to set the phone down in the middle of a contraction, and I was like, it picked up quick. She got to the house around 9 and put me in the warm bathtub, which is a lifesaver for me. Did not want to get out of the bathtub. And I labored there for about 3 or 4 hours. And she started trying to convince me to go to the hospital. And I don't know why, but every baby I've been like in labor, my doulas are like, let's go to the hospital. I'm like, I don't want to go. I'm not
huh?
moving.
Did she ever say like, oh, so the plan was to go to the hospital?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay,
that's the
okay,
thing.
yeah, right.
So we've lived on a military base for all of my pregnancies, and you're not allowed to birth at home on base, liability things.
Okay.
So we were going to go to the hospital, but I knew that I didn't want to go until I knew it was time to
Okay.
give birth, because I didn't want to be put in a bed. And that's one of the big go-tos, especially with, I think they're coming a long way. I don't want to shoot them down, but the military hospitals are very by the books, and typically they want you in the bed, and they want you continuous monitoring. They want to run fluids. And from the get-go, I was like, I don't want any of that. I just want to be left alone to just get through this, just me. So I knew that I wanted to wait until the very last minute ish, for the last hour. So anyway, she kind of she was tuning into me, and she was like, yeah, I think it's time to go, Kayla. I think it's time to go. So we got in the car. My water broke in the car.
Mm-hmm.
She made me walk up the stairs at the hospital.
Wow.
I got to labor and delivery, and they checked me, and they were like, call the doctor. She's a 10. We need to go. And I remember distinctly I think my eyes were closed the entire time I was in the hospital. I was just like, oh my gosh, make this stop. I remember hearing someone say, try not to push. And I was like, that's not me. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really feels like that sometimes. And then Nadine was born. I think it was like 40 minutes of pushing. And she was coached pushing. I think really, honestly, that was probably my only regret with my first baby was the coach pushing, because I did tear because I was on my back and I had coach
Yeah.
pushing. So that was my first lesson in giving birth.
Yeah.
But she was 6 pounds, 11 ounces, came out screamed for, I don't know, the first hour of her life.
Wow. Yeah.
So that was Nadine.
So, had you, I guess, can you tell me a little bit more about the coached pushing and like why you feel that is linked to your tearing and how you decided to do
So I
things
just
differently?
read up on that after birth about pushing on my back, because I knew that my doula had talked to me about it before, about trying to avoid being on your back when you're pushing. You really want to be standing up, squatting, or on all fours, hands and knees.
Yeah.
So after the fact and all those late nights of breastfeeding, I started reading about it and how it can, something about the way your body's laying down like that, it will make it harder for the baby to descend and come out. And I think back now, she's the one that I pushed the longest with, or I actually didn't push with the other two at all. Um, and she's the one I tore with, and I didn't tear with my next baby, and he was an entire pound bigger.
Yeah.
So yeah, that
Yeah.
sucked.
Okay. Okay. So, I guess, yeah. So Kai, tell me about Kai. And
Hi.
Kai is born in Japan. So what would you say are like the biggest differences in terms of the prenatal care between what you know being the UK and then Japan? And I guess it's on base, so maybe it's pretty standard
Yeah.
across the
So it's
board, but
the care was basically the same. I will say I had a little bit of conflict, I guess, with the clinic here right off the bat. And I look back now and I kind of understand where they were coming from. Where we live in Japan, a lot of people think, oh, Japan, tropical island. But we live way up north. We're pretty isolated from bigger cities. And there's a lot of snow for about 6 months out of the year. And right off the bat, just knowing that I had already given birth, I knew I could give birth, and I'd done it unmedicated, pretty low interventions. I did have interventions that towards the end they did do Pitocin with Nadine to get the placenta out. So I kind of knew what I wanted, and I think that kind of struck them wrong in the beginning. And I personally opt to not do Hep B or vitamin K or anything right after birth. If we're going to do vaccines or anything, everything can wait until 2 months. That's the way I feel about it. And they didn't like that. And I actually had one of the providers kind of raise their voice at me, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm older than you. I'm more wiser than you. I've done this before, like, wait a minute. So right off the bat, I remember leaving my first appointment once I got to Japan, because I moved here, I think I was 6, maybe 7 months pregnant with Kai. And I remember leaving the first appointment and looking at my husband and going, nope, not a fan.
yeah. Yeah.
And then, let's see, Kai started measuring behind as far as size around 30, 32 weeks. And that was like, they were instantly went into, well, we're going to start monitoring him. And if he's too small, we're going to induce at 39 weeks, yada, yada, yada. And I was just like, obviously I went home and did my own research, but it came down to, if a baby's small, why would we take him early?
What was the reasoning?
They were trying to say that it could be due to my placenta not working, placenta slowly dying, which can happen, but it's a very small percentage as to what I've read anyways. Stuff like that. Well, I'm not a big girl to begin with. My husband's not a big guy. I'm thinking my daughter was 6 pounds, 11 ounces. I'm like, maybe we just make a little smaller babies. It's not a big deal. I think I was like 2 weeks behind every time I went to an appointment as far as like measuring the belly and stuff. So they did a few NSTs, and then I had one growth scan with Kai, and he was measuring right just enough to where they were like, okay, we'll let you. And that triggered me instantly. We'll let you go on. I'm like, you're going to let me. Okay. Thank you for letting me. Glad I can make you happy,
Yeah.
But I will say with Kai, his pregnancy was just harder. I don't know why, other than the fact that we moved from England to Japan with a 2-year-old. I was just highly hormonal, very cranky. I was not happy. I didn't have any friends here. I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
I moved here the end of April, and he came the end of July. And so it was just tough. It was tough. Luckily, I did have another doula. Her name's Kiera. She's now moved to southern Japan. And she was phenomenal. Let's see. I think at my 40-week appointment. Go ahead.
For people that maybe don't know so much about what a doula does or how they can help, what would you say was like the biggest benefit of working with the doula?
I say two things. Some of the techniques they do to help with labor pain was a huge benefit. And I know everyone's different, but for me, mine was hot water. I did a lot of in the bath, shower. And once I got in that bath, I never wanted to get out. I was like, this is it. I'm right here, and really pouring that hot water and squeezing the hips. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Squeezing the hips was key for me. And all of my doulas were really great hip squeezers, even my husband. So that really helped a lot. And I think secondly, the space that they hold for me while I'm in labor and just being so reassuring and reassuring for my husband. All our partners are different, but I can tell you mine is when he sees me in pain, he can hold space for me and he can be there for me, but he's too worried,
Right.
so I kind of see him check out. And that was okay for me because I had my doula there,
Yeah.
and I knew that she could help me when Ethan wasn't able to give me what I needed, because he was kind of panicky.
Yeah.
And in all my pregnancies, I think with Nadine, I could hear him downstairs vacuuming, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" You know?
Oh my
So,
God. Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
so that's like super key for me because no one wants to. Well, maybe some people do want to be completely alone, but moving to a new country and not knowing anyone, I felt alone enough. I needed someone there to be
Yeah.
continual reassurance for me. So that was big for me. So my big things that a doula brought for me was just being able to hold that space for me and be there for me, but also reminding me of the techniques to sway my hips on all four and to really breathe and be vocal. That's one thing that I was never really good at, was just being vocal and just with my breathing. Do you remember
Yeah.
like breathing really loud and heavy during labor? Yeah. And my doula would be like, just let it out, just breathe. And I was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And really, I was trying to hold it all in.
Totally. I thought like I knew how to breathe, like
Yeah,
I teach yoga, like this is my whole thing. And breathing during labor is totally different.
totally different.
Yeah. And there's different types of breathing for the different stages and different moments within each stage. And having someone to guide you and remind you and be like, hey,
Right.
now
Yeah.
this is, yeah. So that was for sure, it was
Super
key
helpful.
and super eye opening.
Right. So Kai was late. All my babies were late. He was 41 weeks and 2 days. At my 40-week appointment, the same provider that was kind of rude to me in the beginning was like, well, I got you on the books for Monday. That you'll be 41 weeks and 2 days by then. So I'm going to go ahead and put you on the books. And that was her exact verbiage. And I was like, okay. And I left that office and I told my husband, over my dead body, like, this is mine. And that's my big thing, is like, this is my birth. This is my baby. And I wanted to have a home birth to begin with. And then I moved to Japan and I realized that's not allowed. So I already felt like that was taken away from me. So I was like, there's no way you're going to force me. You hear my middle son down there?
Okay, yeah. Is he
He's
naked?
No, I don't know. He's downstairs crying. No, I made him put on underwear.
Okay.
But anyways, uh, I remember her telling me, I've got you on the books. And I was like, yeah, not happening. So 41 weeks comes around and I'm a mess because I'm like, it's Saturday. I'm 41 weeks. They're going to freak out because I'm not showing up on Monday. And sure enough, on Monday, I still hadn't gone into labor. And I'm like in tears crying, and my husband's about to go to work. And I'm like, I'm not going. I don't want to go. This is not what I want. I feel like this baby is fine. He's healthy. I realize he's measured small. I'm not a big girl. I just really feel like he's fine. He just needs that time. And he looked me in the eyes and said, Kayla, they are not going to come to the door and drag you to that hospital. Call them and tell them you're not coming.
Mm.
And I was just like, you're right. They're not going to come drag me out of my house. So I called and I left a message and they called me back and I said, hey, I'm scheduled for an induction today, but I just really feel like he's going to come soon, and I would prefer to let him come on his own. And I hope that's okay. And that I talked to a different provider, and he said, okay, Kayla, as long as you can promise me at 42 weeks, if you have not had this baby, I need you to come in at 42 weeks, regardless. And I was like, yes, sir, I can handle that. And I'm not lying to you. I hung up the phone and I started having contractions.
Oh my
Like,
gosh. Of course. Of course.
right? And I was like,
They
I knew it.
know.
I knew it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like your
and
baby knows, and you know, and there's this thing that's happening,
yeah.
Oh
So
man.
I got chills just talking about it. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm having contractions. This is great. I'm going to win. And of course, I don't know why, but like every time I've gone into labor, it's kind of, I don't know, it's like my little secret. I didn't tell my husband for like 2 hours. He was at work.
Yeah.
My daughter was at daycare, and I was just like, I'm just going to be in this, I'm going to be alone for a while. And
Yep.
that's what I did. Um, and my contractions, like, I think that was at like 2 p.m. They were very close together from the get-go, like maybe 2 to 3 minutes apart for an hour or two, and then they were every 60 to 90 seconds.
Wow.
So I finally called my husband at like 3:30, and I was like, hey, I think we're having this baby tonight. I want my daughter. Can you go get Nadine? Because she was at daycare. And
Okay.
that's every time I go into labor, I'm like, I need my babies. Bring them here, So he's like, okay, I'm on my way. So he went and got my daughter and brought her home. I got my last hugs in, and then he took her to a friend's house. From there, I texted my doula. I sent her like a screenshot because I use the apps to like time my contractions.
Yeah.
And I sent her like a screenshot, and she was like, okay, I'm going to come over. And that was like 5:30. And I went straight to the tub. That's my go-to.
Yeah.
Labored in the tub.
I'm
I
gonna
think
I'm gonna pause you for just a second.
Mhm.
I want to go back to like when you started those contractions and that time that you were just by yourself before you told your husband.
Uh-huh.
Because I've heard this from a lot of women, and actually I got the advice too, where it was like, take a little bit of time for yourself. Like at the beginning, see if you can just enjoy some time alone.
Mhm.
And I was like, I mean, I don't know. How am I not going to tell him that something's going on?
Right.
And then when it started, I was like, okay, I'm just going to I'm going to be in
Yeah.
bed. He was asleep. I went and took a shower. I went and had a snack.
Yeah.
And it was something I agree. For me, that like time was really special. And I'd like, if I ever did it again, I'd like to do that again. Was there something that you did, or now like having done it a few times that you like to do?
Um, I like to sit on the toilet.
Yeah.
Um, that really relieved the pain a lot for me for those first contractions, because at first you're kind of in shock and you're like, ugh. And then I like to eat fruit because I'm thinking I need to give myself some energy, some sugar. This may be a while. And I like to listen to my music, Jack Johnson, stuff like that. Just really zen out as much as you can in labor.
Right.
And I think for me, like one of the things is my husband gets so antsy. Those last like starting at like 38 weeks, every day he's like, "Are we gonna have a baby today? Are we gonna have a baby today?" Touching my belly and stuff. So finally, when it's
Yeah.
happening, I'm like, everyone, just leave me alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's probably it, honestly.
Okay. Okay. No, that's cool. I mean, I've talked to people that have had like different experiences. So I just wanted to hear what yours
Right.
was. And I think that's also kind of cool. Like there's a little bit of a recurring theme, and it's, kind of sweet if you can,
My
if you
first
want
thing is,
that moment to like take it.
yeah, my first thing I think that I think about is like, okay, how bad does this hurt? How long can I go without asking for like, okay, I need you to come home. I need someone to hold my hips. This
Yeah.
hurts.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, like, I don't know, I've labored on the toilet.
Yeah.
I just sit
Well,
there and listen to my music on my phone and time my contractions, because I don't ever really had the desire to let anyone know until I know for sure like this is labor. Because I've heard stories where people have, contractions for days, and mine were never like that, but I always expected it to be like that because that's how I'd always heard it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Okay. So you get in the water in the hot tub. You don't want to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah.
My doula was like, and this has happened with both boys. She was like, I think you should get out. Your contractions are kind of getting further apart, not as long. And so she had me get out. I had to walk downstairs, and I think it's Rebozo. Does that ring a bell?
Mm-hmm. So like the
Um,
big wrap.
yeah.
Yeah.
So she was doing
It's
some
like
of
a
that.
giant shawl
Yeah.
scarf kind of a thing. And how did she use it on you?
So it's all kind of a blur, but I remember
Okay.
being on my knees in the living room, and it's really a blur, but she had it around me, maybe around my belly, and then
Yeah.
this.
Yep, exactly. I was on
Yeah.
hands and knees, and then she put it underneath the belly. And because Callie was not, she wasn't turning in the right
Mm-hmm.
position. And so we did a little bit of this like shifting of my belly around to see if maybe we could get help getting her to turn a
So,
little bit. But it also just like relieved a lot of,
right.
not a lot, but like,
Did it make your pain feel more intense when you did it?
I think I was already at a place where everything was really
Really
intense.
intense. Yeah.
So
That's what I
it
was
was
gonna
just
say. Mine was super, from that point on, it was super intense. I guess it must have worked because I had him not soon
yeah,
after that.
yeah,
But I
it
was
just,
like, "Man, this is terrible."
it was just like a different version of it. And it was uncomfortable. Like I'm on my hands and knees. There's this,
Yeah.
my midwife's behind me. I got this thing on my belly. Like, it just, I don't know. It was just like
Yeah.
I felt
You
a little
always
uncomfortable, but it seemed to be doing something.
Right, yeah, because everything got really intense from there. I remember that, and I remember thinking, "Oh God, this sucks. Let me get back in the bathtub."
Mm.
And after a while, we did go back to the bathtub. I think maybe I was downstairs for like 20 minutes, and I was like, "I just want to go back to the bathtub." And we went back to the bathtub, and I think I was there for like 10 minutes. And she was like, "Kayla, I think you're getting pretty close. We should go." So we did. I wasn't even able to sit down in the car. I think I was on my knees, leaning over the seat because I was like, I'm not sitting down." Made it to labor and delivery, and they're like, checked me, of course, and they're like, "Oh wow, she's a 9. She's ready. She's just about ready." And I remember being in the delivery room and the lights being so bright, and I was still standing, and I was just leaning over the bed, and I remember like thinking, "Please turn the lights out. This is terrible." And they're like trying
Yeah.
to stick an IV in me in the middle of these really intense contractions, and then all of a sudden my water breaks, and I see it because I'm bending down like this, and I'm looking at the floor, and I see my
Yeah.
water break.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I feel like I need to push. He's coming." And then my body, I swear to you, it was like my body bent in half. And they were like,
Whoa.
"Try not to push." Again, try not to push. And I was like, "I'm
Mhm.
not doing that. I'm not doing
Right.
that." And I don't remember. I think I kind of, I don't know, blacked out or whatever, but I ended up in the bed, but I was on all fours leaning over the back of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember yelling, "I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. It's my body."
Yeah.
And they were like, "No, you're fine. You're fine. This is great, Kayla. You're doing great." And at that point, they had given up trying to get me on the monitors or anything because it wasn't happening. He was coming. Um, and I want to say like,
Another,
what's up?
go ahead.
I
Go
want to say
ahead.
like 2 or 3 like of those FER fetal re what is it? What's FER?
Ejection reflex.
Ejection reflexes. 2 or 3 of my body just bending in half, and he was out.
Yeah.
So, and I
Wow.
really think that my births were like that or his birth, because I was so active. Um, I because during moving from England to Japan, I didn't work. I was at home in Japan, didn't know anyone. We did lots of running. I ran till like 30 weeks with both of the boys, and then from there, I did a lot of lifting, kind of CrossFit type workouts, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know street parking then. I was kind of just making my own workouts, and one of my friends, Sable, is a trainer, and she would kind of give me some stuff to run with kettlebells. She really likes kettlebells, so I did a lot of work like that. And I don't know, I want to say I think part of that contributed to my births being pretty quick, because I think Kai's was, I would say I was in like real labor starting at like 3, and he was born at 9. So
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone else talked about the fetal ejection reflex, and I feel like it's fascinating how your body, all of the things are in place. If all of the hormones are going and if everything is
If
starting to do
nothing's
its thing, like,
interrupted. Yeah.
yeah, your body it's got a job to do and it's been building and preparing and, you
It's
know,
super cool.
your
And
body
with
has
my
a job to do and your baby, I'd like to think that your baby is
works
also
with you.
doing, yeah, they're doing their job too.
They definitely work with you. And I will tell that about Koa too. Koa's birth was really cool and how he worked with me. But just to with Kai, I was able to avoid that provider who was very unpleasant with me, and she kind of rolled her eyes at my birth preference, yada yada yada. I ended up having a different provider because in the military healthcare, you don't really get to pick your doctor; it's whoever's there. So that can be good and bad. And it ended up being really good with Kai. I had an older, um, he was at OBGYN, but really I feel like he practiced like a midwife. Like I remember he just sat back and let me do my thing. And I wasn't at the
Huh.
hospital long before Kai was birthed, but he just sat back and was like, "You're fine. This is fine." When I was freaking out, I was like, I'm not doing this. My body's just pushing. I'm not doing it. And he was like, "It's fine." I mean, and he let me do third stage labor with no interventions, whereas with Nadine, they instantly like Pitocin to get the
Hmm.
placenta out, and I was able to birth my placenta with no intervention, and I thought that was super cool. I was very appreciative because that's not something that they're real big on here because we are so far up north in Japan. If something were to go wrong and I were to hemorrhage, we're pretty far from a big hospital.
Yes,
So the fact that he trusted me enough to let me do that,
yes.
that meant the world to me. So that was really cool for Kai's
Cool.
birth. Koa's.
Okay. Koa. Tell me about.
Okay, where do I start? I don't want to say Kai, my mother, say that he was a hard baby, but he brought different challenges. He did not sleep through the night until like 18 months.
Mm.
And as soon as he started sleeping through the night, I got pregnant.
Oh,
Was not planned pregnancy. So we knew we wanted a third and final baby, our last baby, but we did not want him 2 years behind Kai. Kai was really hard, and I was just starting to feel like myself. And then I got pregnant in Hawaii on a Christmas trip. So from the get go, sorry, Koa, I love you to death, but I was just really kind of let down. I was just starting to feel like
Mhm.
myself, sleep through the night, and just come out of the fog.
Yeah.
And then I found out I was pregnant. So that shook us a little bit as a family. My husband was excited within 15 minutes, and it took me a couple of months.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I found out I was pregnant with Koa in January 14th. I don't think I'll ever forget it. And then 2 weeks later, my husband went out of country for work, and he was gone for like 6 weeks. And this
Oh
is
my
in
gosh.
the middle of the winter, shoveling snow, throwing up. I'll never forget it. I'd talk about it. People are probably tired of hearing about it, but I always tell how I remember shoveling snow at 5 in the morning while alternating eating saltine crackers out of my jacket because I was
God.
just so sick. And I was so mad. And I was so mad at my husband. He was in Guam for work, but he was warm and by a beach, and I was at home sick with two kids.
Oh, I would have been so mad.
So I was bitter
Oh,
for quite a while. And then
oh
it
yeah.
just it just continually got worse. Like the baby was healthy. Everything was good, which was great because I was in such a negative mindset. Like, can this just be done? Like, I just need him to get here.
Mhm.
It was tough. And I look back now and I have regrets. I wish I could have just not been so much of a control freak and just let these things be and play out and just roll with the punches where I kind of fought those punches. Um,
What punches?
So my husband was this we call TDY for his work trip. He came back mid-March. We had 2 weeks together as a family, and then I went on a work trip to England, and I was gone for almost 5 weeks. It was about 4.5 weeks.
Wow.
So I flew all the way across from Tokyo, went to New York City, and finally in London. worked by myself at the base there for a month. Good and bad. I think it was good that I had that time alone to really just be with me and Koa and accept that we were going to have a third baby and it was going to be hard. And we were in the forest and it was going to be a while. And that
Yeah.
was just what life was going to be for a while. So I'm thankful for that in a respect, but it was just really hard. You know,
Yeah.
we're all together as a family, we're separated. We're all together as a family, we're separated. So I didn't feel like I really got to enjoy what I knew was going to be my last pregnancy. So I felt kind of robbed, you know,
Oh,
but it
yeah.
was just the way life was playing out for us and we just had to accept it. So I got back from England in May and we were home for a month together. And then my husband, Ethan, had to go on another work trip and he was gone for another 6 weeks. By this time, at least I'm not sick and throwing up anymore, right? So it could be
Still.
worse, I guess.
Yeah, but it's tough.
Yeah, and I just felt, like I said, I come back to the word of feeling um, robbed and alone,
Mhm.
and it sucked, kind of, you know. I hate to say
Yeah.
that, but it really did. Like I was trying to potty train my almost 2-year-old. They were acting out because they wanted daddy, and I
Yeah.
wanted daddy, and a lot of tears, but we got through it.
Yeah.
So he got home mid-July, and we had 2 months together before Koa was born as a family. So we kind of got to get back into our routine of everything, as much as a routine you can have with kids and work and school. And then my doula, she actually moved to Japan June or July, maybe. So I didn't actually meet her until then. Sarah, she was phenomenal. She was from Texas, so we had some common ground there. Um, Koa's birth. So that was leading up to Koa's birth. Koa's birth, he started measuring behind at like 28 weeks, which was a little sooner than Kai had measured behind. But again, I was like, been there, done that. This is fine. He's fine. But the first phone call I get was from one of the providers at the hospital, and she said, um, so the baby's measuring behind. And she mentioned doing some testing as far as like what are the screenings that they do in the beginning to test the baby?
The NIPT,
That one and another one.
and then
Is it the one that
um,
there's another one.
the
Amniosin
amniocentesis.
amnia. Yeah, that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
she started mentioning those and she was like, was there a reason that you didn't want to do them? Would you like to go back and do them? So then that really got me worried. Like, okay, they really think something's wrong with this baby and why he's measuring so far behind. They were wanting to do extra testing if I was willing to. And I was like, let me call you back.
Yeah.
So, of course, I called my husband crying. I'm like, they're saying the baby's too small. They want me to do these tests and yada, yada, yada. I was like, but I just, Kai was the same way. I still feel like he's fine. And again, my husband was that little bit of sanity. He was like, Kayla, just follow your gut. Like, if you think this baby's fine, this baby is likely fine.
Mhm.
He's like, you're just not, you just don't grow big babies, and that's fine.
Mhm.
Um, so I called her back and I was like, no, I'm not going to do any extra testing. And she said, that's fine, but we do want to start doing NSTs twice a week and a Doppler study once a week.
Wow.
So I was
Okay.
like, okay. I was kind of disappointed
Yeah.
because I was already kind of in that I want to be left alone kind of state of
Yeah.
mind. Like, I've done this before. I've done this exact same scenario before. I really don't want anyone intervening. I feel like he's fine, but to keep peace, I was like, okay. So I started doing the NSTs
So
twice a week.
NSTs are non-stress tests.
Just right, yeah.
And can you just tell us what that means? Like, what do they do?
Basically, they hook you up and they monitor your contractions or if you're having any, and his heart rate
Mhm.
for about 20 minutes. And then to like add anxiety to it, almost every time Koa's heart rate would be fairly low. I mean, I would see him creep down to 103 all the way up to 140. So every now and then they would come in there and be like, well, his heart rate's a little low. How about we get you to turn over? Have you ate anything? Would you like something, some juice, yada, yada, yada.
Mhm.
Anyways, always got the good to go call. So, but it was just, I feel like every time I went in there to do an NST or a Doppler study, I became more anxiety ridden
Yeah.
to the point where I tried to skip those appointments, and then they would call me at work and I'd be like, oh, darn, I forgot. I'm so sorry. When can I come in next? Because I just wanted to be left alone, you know?
Okay. Yeah. Mhm.
So yeah, skipping the appointments was not working. And this is the part where I get really frustrated and passionate because I felt backed into a corner. Like they weren't gonna, and I didn't have any other options to be like, hey, so I'm gonna get a second opinion, or I'm gonna get a different provider, or I've decided to birth off base. Like I didn't have those options. Like it was this or nothing.
So, okay, just to be clear, like, it's just not possible to birth off base?
You would need a translator.
Okay.
And I didn't know anyone that would work with me.
Okay.
And it wasn't super, because I had looked into it with Kai and it was like a lot. It was so with the Japanese, I could be totally incorrect, but from the information I was given, like you have to stay in a hospital for like 5 to 6 days. Sometimes dads are not allowed to be very active in the birthing process, or maybe that's just
Okay.
their culture. They're just not. So, and one of the big things for me was I didn't want to be in someone's care, and my baby in someone's care, and me not understand what they're saying to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
So I was like,
Okay.
that's not
And
going to work.
because you live on base, you cannot do a home birth.
Mm-mm. They actually
Okay.
make you sign a memorandum saying that you will not give birth on base, or you or your sponsor will be reprimanded. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay. All right,
signing,
cool. Let's
yeah.
go back.
So instantly, I'm just like, ugh, this is terrible.
Okay. Yeah.
um, so they started making me do all the monitoring, and give me a second. It was just, it was so much. It was so much for me after everything. The pregnancy was hard, and now I'm getting down to the very end of it, and I just have people invading my space and not trusting me when I knew deep down that this was fine and that we were going to be fine. And again, they went with the well, if we're going to do a growth scan, and if the baby's still measuring small, we will induce at 39 weeks. And knowing that I didn't have an option and that these people were going to have their hands on my babies regardless at some point,
Mhm.
I felt like I had to be like, okay, sure. And I did. Okay, sure, yep. But when 39 weeks came around, then I feel the pressure, and I'm again in tears crying to my husband. I'm like, I'm not letting them induce my baby. And I don't think induction is a terrible thing and that people shouldn't do it. It's just not what I wanted,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And that's, I get really passionate about it. It's my baby. It's my uterus. It's my birth, and it's my last. And I wasn't gonna let anyone rob me of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I refused the induction at 39 weeks because he was still measuring really small. I think he was 8th percentile, which sounds really scary, but they say once you're above 10, then they will allow you to have your baby on your own terms. Is what I was told.
You're so close. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, I'm sorry. I just, I'm not, I'm not in agreement with this at all. I've done
Yeah.
this before. I had the exact same scenario with my son before Koa, who was born at 7 pounds and 13 ounces. He was not
Wow.
small, and that's because those things are so inaccurate. Like the
Yeah.
growth scans and the ultrasounds are so inaccurate, because they projected Koa to be born at 4.5 to 5 pounds, and he was 7 pounds even.
Right. Yeah.
So again, I refused the induction, and I was talking back and forth to my doula, and just really upset because I felt the pressure, like this baby needed to come. or
Mhm.
they were not going to stop writing me about it and bugging me. So then I started to get really antsy those last few weeks. And I knew that in being so antsy that this baby also wasn't going to come with me in that mindset, you know,
Right. Yeah. It
and
can
he didn't,
feel your
he,
stress. Mhm.
at 40 weeks, I was still coming to NSTs and everyone was like, so you don't want to do induction? And I was like, nope, I'm okay. Every NST. I was so anxiety ridden because I don't want to disrespect them and their training and their knowledge,
Right.
you
Sounds like they're
know?
following some really strict protocol.
Right. But in the same respect, I felt like I got this, you know?
Yeah.
Um, at 41 weeks and 2 days is when I did my last NST. And I think there was like 1 or 2 mild contractions on the NST reading. And the doctor came in and she was like, and you're sure I can't talk you into induction? And it's so funny. I looked at her and I said, no, I'm going to win this battle. I got this. I was like, I feel like I'll see you tonight. She was like, okay. And I did not know when I said, I'm going to win this battle, that that's what was going to happen.
Oh my God.
Um, so I get home and I'm thinking, okay, 41 weeks, 2 days, Koa, where are you? What are we doing? Like my doctors are about to lose their mind on me. I know it. I can feel it. So I'm thinking, I'm going to go home. I'm going to change shoes. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to walk on the treadmill. I didn't even make it to changing my shoes. From that NST, I got home, I came in the house, and I started having contractions. And this was at like
Wow.
10:30. And I was like, I knew it. I knew it. Um, my
You
husband's
just
at
need
work.
someone to tell you no, and then you
Right. Yeah.
basically, yeah,
Basically.
yeah,
So I started having contractions. My kids are at school. My husband's at work. Again, I'm like, okay, kind of just be in this for a little bit before I tell anyone. But then also because I have 2 kids, I'm like, I got to pack their bags so they can go stay at a friend's house. So I'm like swaying around the kitchen, bending over counters, like breathing through contractions, trying to pack overnight bags.
gosh,
And finally it became too much at like 11. I was like, okay, this is happening. I need to call my husband. I told my husband, like, we're going to have a baby today. He's stoked, right?
Hmm.
But I tell him, I'm like, you don't have to come home now. Like, I just need some quiet time. I'm gonna go sit on the toilet. So I take my phone and I'm listening to my playlist on the toilet, and probably within 15 minutes, I'm like, okay, you can come home. This is intense. So
Yeah.
this is like 11:30. He comes home, and he this time he didn't have time because I like to bring my babies home, hug them, and tell them bye. But I was like, Ethan, you got to go get the kids and take them to our friend's house. Like, this is happening. And I was kind of scared because he was going to leave and I was going to be home by myself again.
Yeah.
Um, so I contacted my doula and
Where's
I was like, hey,
yeah, where's the doula?
so I don't know. In my head, I always think I'm going to be in labor for at least 8 hours. So I just held off on messaging or calling her or anything. Huge mistake, but she
Yeah.
did make it. So at like noon, I'm like, okay, you got to go get the kids and take them somewhere. This is intense, and I want them settled into the sitter's house. And then I texted my doula. I was like, okay, this is getting pretty intense. Would you mind coming over? She's like, yeah, sure, no problem. Um, she comes over. She's like, I think I was already in the bathtub. I put myself in the bathtub because that was my go-to. And the thing with Sarah was she was super good about pouring hot water over my lower back,
Hmm.
whereas the other two, I just kind of sat submerged in the bathtub. But she
Yeah.
was really good. I was on all fours, and she just was running hot water over my back. Yeah, I always have one funny story with each birth. So this time with Koa, I had Ethan, my husband, putting cold washcloths on my forehead because it was so hot in the water.
Hmm.
And he took ice cubes and put them in the bathroom sink and ran water and got the washcloths really cold to put them on my forehead. So I'm on
Yeah.
like all fours, and I'm going through these contractions, and she's running hot water over my back, and he's putting cold washcloths on my forehead, but he wasn't squeezing the water out of them. He was putting these sopping wet washcloths on my forehead. with the most love and just drowning me.
Oh.
Like there was just water going all down my face, on my
It's
neck.
like iced water. It's
And
getting everywhere.
I had enough energy in me to ask him, "Are you trying to waterboard me right
Yeah.
now?" He was like, "I'm
Yeah.
so sorry." And we
Oh.
did that for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, which felt like forever for me. It felt like forever. I kept saying, like, "What time is it? I feel like we've been here forever." And my full of wisdom husband goes, "Don't rush this. It's fine." And I was like, "Don't rush this."
Excuse me.
Oh, yeah. I was like, "Okay, well, I'm not asking you anything else. I'm done talking to you." Um, so we did that for about an hour and a half, and my doula Sarah was running the hot water over me, and then my contractions again started to. They were they weren't as long, and they were getting further apart. So again, she, just like my other doula, was like, "I think we should get out of the bathtub for a little bit," and I didn't want to, but I did.
Mhm.
This was at like 2, so I got out of the bathtub at like 2, and I was sitting on the toilet again, only facing backwards and resting my
Yeah.
head on the back of the toilet.
Yeah.
And I think I had like 2 contractions, and my husband was squeezing my hips. Husband squeezing hips can really hurt. They don't realize the strength they
Oh my,
have.
so intense. I didn't want to hurt his feelings, but
Yes.
at a certain point I was like, can you just stop
Stop.
for a second? Like,
Yeah.
it's super hard. Like
Yeah, and you don't
it's
have enough energy to explain,
I
like, "That
just did
hurts so good, but I hate it. Please
I
stop."
know, I know. It's like too much to like verbalize. So I
Yeah.
just let it happen, but like it sticks there in my memory as like, God, that
That
was like
hurts so bad.
really hard.
I was sore the first month after COA, just my hips,
Oh,
like, "Did you break them?" Like, they hurt.
yeah. Well, and he was sore too. He says that like
Yeah.
from me like pulling on him or pushing against
Yeah.
him, like all of that. He's like, oh geez, I'm really glad that I
Yeah.
can finish.
Right.
Yeah.
And after the birth, talking to my doula, she was like, "Yeah, I didn't wanna hurt your husband's feelings, but he coulda went a little lower on where he was pressing," and I was like, "I know, but I couldn't say
Yeah.
anything." And she was like,
Yeah.
"He was so
Same.
involved, I wasn't gonna shoot him down. I was, if you were fine, I wasn't gonna say anything."
Exactly. Yeah. My dual, it's like they were thinking that, I was thinking that, but like they're so sweet and their intentions are so good. And he's
Yeah.
trying so hard that I was like, okay, I can't even
"This is
really
fine,
deal
this
with
is
this right
fine." Yeah.
now.
Same scenario.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm sitting on the toilet. I think I probably had 2 contractions and so much pressure, so much pressure. I remember saying, "I think I want to check myself," because I checked myself during my first pregnancy, which was
Mhm.
crazy to me. My doula was like, "Kayla, do you think you can check yourself?" Um, Funny story for my first birth. So she's like walking me through checking myself and checking my dilation. First time mom, first pregnancy. I look over at my doula and I'm like, "Why does my butthole feel like it's inside out?" I had no idea things like that happen. Like, I
So
completely
you like
sidetracked.
you didn't realize that until you like went and checked for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can like feel that something intense is happening, but like you can't actually feel it
Yeah.
unless you're going to touch it.
Right, yeah, and I was like, "Oh my god." So
Oh
anyways,
God.
with my 3rd
Okay,
pregnancy,
okay.
I'm like, "Well, I know how to check myself. I think I wanna check myself." And I remember checking, and I feel like when you think in your head you're gonna check yourself and you think you're gonna feel this, like, soft bubble
Oh,
of the amniotic sac in the baby, but it didn't feel like a balloon. Something
yeah.
just felt really hard, and I was like, "I'm not really sure." At that point, I was questioning, like, maybe I'm not very in tune with my body. Like, what is that? Well, within that split second, my water breaks. Luckily, I'm sitting over the toilet, so it goes all in the toilet, and there's not much of a mess. And my doula goes, "Kayla, was that your water that broke?" My doula and my husband both thought I had went to the bathroom. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Nope, that was my water." And she was like, "Okay, we should probably get to the hospital. Let's." She starts sending my husband downstairs to call labor and delivery and tell him we're on our way. And she's behind me at this point. She puts her hands underneath my armpits to kind of get me off the toilet, and I instantly screamed. I was like, nope, he's coming.
Oh my
And we had the
God.
lights off in the bathroom, and she turns the light on, and his head is, you can see the top of his head. And I remember hearing her scream, Ethan, call 911. Get off the phone with labor and delivery, call 911. This baby's coming. And as soon as she leaned me back, because I was on the toilet, his head pops out.
Oh
Just
my God.
boop. And I was like, so you're not allowed to have babies at home
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And so my first thought is my doula. And I was like, Sarah, I'm so sorry. That was the first thing I said was, Sarah, I'm so sorry. Because
Because you felt like
she's a
you were
fairly
going to
new
get her
doula.
in trouble.
Yeah, I didn't want to get her in trouble. I didn't care about me. I'm
Yeah.
having my baby at home, and this is awesome. But I was like,
Okay.
Sarah, I am so sorry. But
Yeah.
can you sit me down on the ground so I don't have this baby in the toilet?
Oh my
So
God.
she's like inching backwards, trying to sit me down on the ground. And she gets me sat on the ground, and I'm like cradling his head. He's still in, and I'm gonna cry. It was the most amazing experience. Just like holding his head. Like I didn't get to do that with my other two. With Kai, I was on all fours, and with Nadine, I was on my back, and I'm holding his head, and I'm in like this like surreal moment. But then I start to panic because I'm like, okay, it's been like a minute. Like what's happening? Like I said,
Yeah.
Sarah, if he doesn't come out soon, I feel like I'm just gonna have to pull him out. Like she was like, just breathe. I need you to be calm. Just breathe. Keep your hands on his head. And this is the part where I felt like your babies work with you. I never felt a contraction. Maybe I had one. I don't know. I felt his head turn, just like in the books. I felt his head turn.
Mm.
And then his body came out, and I was just like, oh my God, he's here, and he has dark hair. Like, what is this?
Oh my
You
God.
know? And I didn't have to suck his mouth or anything. He just instantly upchucked a little amniotic fluid, and he was crying and looking at me. And I was just like, this is really happening.
Oh my God.
It was so awesome. So awesome. So even though it was unplanned, I almost feel like I told someone, like, I feel like I manifested that baby and him being born at home, because I was so just like, I respected the hospital for their concerns, but I just felt like I knew that had I gone to the hospital, they were going to intervene, because they were so worried about him being small. And I just knew he was fine. I knew, I just knew. Um, and I remember confiding in my first doula, Katie, who now lives in Oregon. And I said, Katie, I, in the back of my head, I just feel like if this baby comes fast and furious and at home, I'm okay with that. Like,
Yeah.
eh, I'm okay with that. That I feel like it's what I want, but I know that if that were to happen, I'd be in trouble. So I can't like just, hey, I'm not coming to the hospital to have my baby.
Right.
But if I have a precipitous birth, and she was like, okay, the precipitous births are so hard on your body. And I was like, I know, but I just don't want anyone to steal my birth from me.
Yeah.
This is the last time I get to bring life. And I just don't want someone to take that from me. So I feel like it's almost like I manifested that whole birth.
Yeah.
And just the fact that he was born and he was healthy and there were no interventions, and
Mhm.
I won that battle, you know?
You did.
And when I got to the
Yeah.
hospital, that was one of the first things I said when I saw the doctor that I saw previously that morning. I was like, that's not what I meant. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God. They probably have like a picture of you in the back room of the hospital, like, watch out for this woman. She's
She's
gonna try to
crazy.
birth her own babies. She won't listen to you. Oh
And
my
I am. I'm
gosh.
just hard-headed. I think
Okay,
people
so
think I'm
sorry, go
crazy,
ahead.
but
No, I mean, I think you're very brave and have a really deep connection to your body and to your baby. It's like
right.
amazing.
Can't
Okay,
wait to
but
put
tell
on my
me, I know, God, can you imagine like being like, I held your
yeah.
head in my
Yeah.
hand? Like,
I think for a couple weeks after Ko was born, I could just like caress his little head, and it would just take
Oh.
me back like to this crazy birth high. Like I was just like, oh my God, that's crazy.
So, uh, so then I assume like the medics came to the house
hmm
and then
They
they,
did. It's funny because I remember um, before Ko was born and just his head was out and we were waiting. What a crazy silence that was. But I remember hearing the sirens in the background. And my husband was running back and forth between upstairs and downstairs because the way the base is set up, um, we don't really give addresses, we give building numbers. So we're
okay,
building 213. So he was kind of running back and forth to make sure they knew where to stop at. This is at 2:38 p.m. School gets out at 2:30 p.m. here. I live
oh
right up the
my
hill from the school. And so I'm like, oh my God, everyone and their mom is about to know and see me climb
gosh.
into this ambulance. So they finally get there and they come upstairs. And this is one part that I won't forget. They didn't have like the scissors that you use to cut the umbilical cord. We got delayed cord clamping because obviously the way he was born and they didn't show up, you know.
Yeah.
So they had a scalpel and that's all
Huh.
they had. And so that's what Ethan cut the cord with, which was crazy to me.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but before that, the the EMT lady, whatever, she was like, so we're gonna take Koa, the baby. So she said the baby downstairs, and then we're gonna help walk you downstairs. And my eyes got real big, and I looked at my doula because I was like, he's still connected to me. What do you mean you're gonna take the baby? Like what? And so I just looked at my doula, Sarah. I was like, they have to cut the cord. I think everyone was just in the, oh my God, she just had this baby at home, that they were like, let's get this baby downstairs. And so Sarah was like, we're going to cut the cord first though, right? So they kind of had to be reminded of that. So from there, I'm like completely freaked out because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is terrible, but not terrible at all,
Yeah.
you know? And then
Yeah.
they pull out
I
a
mean,
scalpel and I'm just
I'm
like,
sure
oh.
that it's just like, when was the last time they saw this happen? You
Yeah.
know?
Um, So we cut the cord and they took the baby downstairs. Um, one of the EMTs did, and he went directly into the ambulance and just held Koa there. And Ethan helped me get downstairs. And before I would even walk out of the house, because I knew that it was afternoon, I was like, can you guys just make sure there's like not people standing out there? Because I'm naked right now, you know? So they wrap a towel around me and I walk out my front door and they load me up or whatever. um, get to the hospital. I did tear because he was so quick. It happened so quick.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a pretty serious tear. That really hurt. Um, so yeah, that was Co's birth. It was awesome. Also unexpected, but I think it was the way it was. That's just the way it was supposed to happen. You know.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, my placenta did not want to come out. I'm sure there's, I don't know, scientific reasons or something as to why, maybe because the birth was so quick. So I did finally allow them to set me up with Pitocin to get the placenta out, because I think it had Coa at 2:38 and I think the placenta came out close to 4.
Hmm.
So they
Oh
were kind
yeah.
of like,
Wow.
what is this? Okay. So they asked me the first time, do you want to do Pitocin so we can get the placenta out? And at first I said no. And my doula suggested nipple stimulation. And I was just so in shock with all the events that had just taken place that
Yeah.
nipple stimulation was not happening for me.
Yeah.
And Koa's temperature was down to like 95 or 96. And I think it was just because having the baby right outside the bathtub, the transferring to the hospital, his temperature was just down. So I was just like, whatever, do what you
Yeah.
need to do. Placenta out, please take care of my baby. And he's across the room at this point. So we definitely didn't get like a golden hour or
Yeah.
anything like that, but crazy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So you said it a couple of times now, but like that was your
That's
last
my
baby.
last baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
it's bittersweet because we just had a friend actually that had a little girl, and my husband sent me a picture of her, and I was like, I can't believe I'm never going to do this again. I can't talk to you right now.
Yeah.
But when you know. And I remember after Kai's birth, they asked, like, what are you guys going to do for birth control? Um, and we asked them to let us talk it over. And this was like in the delivery room. I don't know why they asked us so soon. And
Oh,
after Kai was born, and I just remember my husband, Ethan, he was like, I just don't feel done. And I was like, I don't either. But after Koa's pregnancy and birth and just everything that I already have, I'm just forever grateful for. I'm like, I feel complete.
yeah.
You know?
That's so funny that you use that word. Somebody today was asking me if we were going to have more. And I was like, I honestly, the plan was always just one.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I don't totally know. And she's like, does your family feel complete? And I was like,
Mhm.
huh,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't totally know. But I love that,
And
that
and
word. That,
I was just talking to a friend about that the other day because she was asking, Ethan had a vasectomy recently, and she was asking me how it was, and I was like, well, wasn't there, but he seems okay, you know.
yeah,
She was like, well, we're me and my husband are debating back and forth, and I was like, do you feel complete? And she was like, not entirely, and I was like, just sit with that, for a while, um,
yeah,
and then I think you'll know. Because I mean, as soon as Koa was born, obviously that wasn't like my first thought after his birth, but I just felt complete and on that,
yeah.
you know. And the crazy thing is when we first found out we were pregnant with Nadine and we knew she was a girl, I was like, I'm gonna be a girl mom. I'm gonna have like two little girls. Now I have two little boys and a girl. I'm
Yeah.
like, touche, universe, touche. I love
Oh,
it.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
chaotic
ugh, for
craziness,
sure.
but
I thought for sure I was having a boy. I
yeah.
thought, yeah, like, oh God, no, I'm terrified of girls. Terrified.
Yes. My daughter's almost 5 and I'm terrified of her because she acts just like me.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm terrified of. Um, okay, so tell me how, well, first of all, is there anything else that you want to like add about any of this or anything that you want to leave or share with like
You
let's
know,
say new moms, moms that are expecting, or moms that have, you know, anyone.
I I will probably remember something really good to say after the fact
Uh-huh.
because that's how it always goes.
Yeah.
But I think my big thing that I would want to share with anyone is this is yours. This is your baby. This is your birth. You'll carry it with you forever and ever and ever. Um, just know that and make sure you have options. Know that you do have options. And don't take no or yes for an answer. Like follow your heart on that. You know, if I would have listened and just yes ma'am, I would have had both of my boys at 39 weeks. Probably induced, maybe C-sections. I don't know. We just don't
Who
know.
who
But
knows?
tune into
Yeah.
your body and listen to it because I knew my babies were fine. I knew they were fine. Um, but it's yours. It's yours for the taking. You know. I think that's my big thing because I feel like a lot of people don't realize that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I mean, for the most, well, I think a lot of like our experience with the medical field is like you go to the doctor and the doctor checks you and tells you what to do and what to take and how to get better. And like,
Mhm.
why would anything be different when it comes to, well, first of all, there's that. And like, we
Mhm.
can, even with that, you know, start
Right.
to learn and educate ourselves just on more, on knowing ourselves more and knowing more options.
Knowing ourselves
But,
more.
but then like, you know, when it comes to birth, to question things, it feels like I shouldn't have to.
Right.
But it is, I do think that it's like, it's our responsibility
True.
um,
True. Absolutely.
to, yeah, to just educate ourselves about
Educate ourselves
this,
and
the biggest thing that we're doing
ever.
ever in
Yeah.
our
Right.
lives. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. And I hope that I never make people feel ashamed of their births or less than. Like, if you want to have your baby by the river, cool. If you want to schedule your induction, your C-section, that's awesome. I just hope that you know that you have options, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah, that's it. I think that's the whole thing. It's like, just know that there are these different ways that
Right.
it can go. And that's kind of like the whole purpose of this podcast, is just to be like, look at all of the ways that birth goes,
It can
you
unfold,
know?
yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's why I feel so like I want to do midwifery care, but I would love to do midwifery care in a military environment, because what I've seen, the general consensus is, like, I moved to England basically a baby, brand new, married to my husband for 2 years. I didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know what it's like to feel alone and not knowing and almost at a disadvantage and very confused and not really. I had a few friends here and there, but I didn't have a big support system that wrapped their arms around me. And I know what that's like.
Yeah.
And I just want to be there for those people, especially.
Yeah.
That's a big
That's so
thing.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the role that street parking has played in this? How long have you been doing street parking? And what is the role that street parking has played in your journey into motherhood?
Um, so I stalked street parking from like October to December 2017, and I joined, I think, January 2018. It's been a big eye opener. Uh, it's really shown me that I'm not alone. There are tons of mamas out there dealing with some of the same things, big things, big life wills. It's definitely helped, obviously, keep my activity level up. But I think because I was able to stay so active, I think that also helped me to be able to tune into my body and tune into my baby. And I definitely think my activity level helped with how fast my labors were.
Yeah.
But I think outside of fitness, it's just knowing that I'm not alone. You know, I'm still very social media shy, but I follow a lot of you guys on Instagram and I watch the posts on Facebook, and it's comforting to know that. And
Yeah.
it's definitely helped keep my sanity for sure.
Same. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, Kayla, this has been so great. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for taking the time, for sharing your story. I know you said that you were a little uncomfortable doing that for a number of reasons, but I really appreciate it. And
No problem.
yeah, so, so great. I'm
Thanks
excited to
for
hear
listening.
about, yeah, I'm excited to hear about your move and the next steps and you becoming a doula. And
Yes, and we'll
yeah,
chat. We'll chat offline about that. Maybe we
yep,
can put something
yeah,
together.
I'll start looking.
Perfect.
And congrats on your graduation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excited. I'm not going to know what to do with all my free weekends. Hang out with my
I don't know.
kids.
Take care of 3 kids, probably. um, okay, that is it. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening. And I will see you on the social medias.
Awesome.
All right,
Bye.
bye.